Goodman. In San Bernardino, California, 2 shooters opened fire at a social services center, killing 14 people, wounding at least 17. At a news conference organized by the Council on American Islamic Relations Wednesday, Yasser Louati, the executive director of CARE Los Angeles, spoke, condemning the shooting. In an interview on CNN, Louati responded to a question about why he was so quick to issue the condemnation.
Well, because we're living in a very difficult time. There's a lot of Islamophobia there. There's a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment fueled by pundits here and there, trying to blame a whole community for the acts of a few. Again, we're just still mourning as a nation after what happened in Colorado Springs by someone who is also responsible for his act, not the Christian community, not the American community. Same thing, we felt there was a need for our fellow Americans to know that all American Muslims share with the rest of the country our sorrow today, our shock, and our agony for what happened. It was important for the family. They wanted to make sure that people know how they felt, how devastated they are, and they insisted to being here, although they're going through their sorrow as we speak now, but they drove all the way to be at the office and speak to fellow Americans and say, we're all victims today. We stand united in our sorrow, and the only way we can come through this is through our solidarity.
That's Yasser Louati of CARE Los Angeles. Here in Paris, the French Interior Minister announced Wednesday French authorities had carried out more than 2,200 raids since a state of emergency declared following the November 13th attacks that killed 130 people. On Sunday, I sat down with Yasser Louati, a spokesperson and head of the International Relations Desk for the Collective Against Islamophobia in France.
We have several cases, highly disturbing cases. For example, they raided several mosques, like 7 of them. At least 3 got thrashed by the police as they were searching them. And we all know that all mosques are under high surveillance. So why raid a place you already know has nothing to give you? And second, why add humiliation to injury by thrashing the place? Now we also have several cases of brutal raids being conducted. For example, a 6-year-old child was hit by shrapnels after the police shot 2 shotgun fires through the door. We had a restaurant being raided as people were having dinner, and now we even have several cases of just open humiliation of mothers in front of their children and husbands.
Can you explain under what legal grounds are these raids taking place? I mean, Hollande, the president of France, declared a state of emergency that's continuing for months. What does that allow them to do? The background of this law is in 1955, during the Algerian War, they declared a state of emergency, but it was against dangerous activities. Now they raid people and put them under house arrest under the suspicion of, what can we say? No, the suspicion of suspicious behavior. So now they're trying to criminalize even the intention of people. And that's why most of the raids did not bring anything tangible, because now the local governor can decide which home can be raided, which restaurant, and they don't have to even explain themselves. And now we see a blatant case of an authoritarian regime being implemented upon us. I also understand that a number of climate activists, not Muslim, not French Arab, have been put under house arrest or have been arrested altogether. Because
all this retaliation from the government is spiraling out of control. Of course, to implement that, they said we are going to target the Muslim minority, and Muslims, don't worry, it's just that a tiny fraction of radicals amongst you, without defining what being a radical means. But now, once the Muslim minority bear the brunt of these retaliations, we had the COP21 coming, and now they have raided, for example, a farm selling organic food. They raided a place where you had, ecologist militants, and now people are being scared of how far can the government take all these measures.
We have a video of a 6-year-old child. Explain what happened.
Actually, they raided the place. It was in the city of Nice. They showed up, I think, at 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 a.m. They shot twice through the door to make their way in. And then I think they shot again against one of the doors, and the shrapnel hit the girl in the back of her neck.
A 6-year-old girl?
A 6-year-old child, yes. And then the police said, sorry, wrong house, and just walked away.
Let me go to that videotape. This is the father of the 6-year-old girl describing what happened.
I was woken up by noisy pounding and shootings at the door. They were trying to break the door down. I did not know if they were the police or not. They did not give any warning. When they saw me, they forced me to the ground to neutralize me. My daughter was hit in the neck, probably by some shotgun pellets. Fortunately, it could have been more serious. The wood of the bed stopped them somehow. But I was scared to death to see blood on my daughter. Imagine, at 4:30 in the morning. I wish nobody to have such an experience.
That's a videotape of a home that was raided where a 6-year-old girl was injured. Yasser Louati, did the government apologize for what they did?
Actually, we had to have videos before the government started speaking about this violence and this brutality. And so far, the raid, or the equivalent of your SWAT teams in the US, they said, we take full responsibility for this excess. But we had to have videos because we have dozens of cases of being violently raided at night and the police just saying, sorry, wrong house, and walking away. And now the Minister of Interior, Bernard Cazeneuve, only spoke about this brutality after a video showed this restaurant being raided as people were having dinner and the owner handing the key to the police, and where they said they prefer to just smash the door to make their way in.
Let's show a copy of that videotape.
I was serving my clients, and out of the blue, around 40 fully equipped riot police entered my restaurant. They have shotguns, bulletproof vests, etc. They proceeded to secure the perimeter.
That's the videotape of a restaurant being raided, a halal restaurant being raided. You're a leader in the community. Is the government reaching out to you?
So far, no. They just said, well, bring all the cases of excesses you have, and we'll see what we can do. And now the Minister of Interior said, we ask the police, officers and the SWAT teams to respect human dignity or something like that. But when you give them a blank check, and when local governors can decide who can be raided, and when such violence is reported to you, nothing is being said or done. We had to wait for the videos to be shown until the government started actually taking that into consideration.
What about the effect of the mosques being raided on the Muslim community?
Oh, an outrage and deep humiliation and complete abandonment by the government. The question that was like, why? You know what's going on in mosques. The Minister of Interior knows, radicalization does not happen inside mosques. And they just came here, they found nothing and started putting off ceilings. They smashed the libraries, threw books on the floor and just walked away. If it isn't a sense of vengeance, you are applying against Muslims, then what is it? Why not respect human dignity? I mean, these Muslims are the very same target as you are, people, because when you are not Muslims. Why hit them again by government forces that showed no respect whatsoever? And when the pictures went viral on social media, the government said nothing about that.
You've talked about feeling doubly, triply targeted. But talk about ISIS. I mean, overall, ISIS has killed more Muslims than certainly any other, or people of any other religion.
Yes. This is where the trap lies, or actually the blindness lies, sorry. This so-called Daesh or ISIL, whatever they call themselves, said they were doing this for Muslims and what French Muslims were, experiencing in France as a minority. And I keep saying, if they really care about Muslims, why they keep killing them by the thousands? And this has been going on for years. And now they came to France and they even killed Muslims here, at home in Paris. So this is something we keep repeating over and over. But if I were to take responsibility for their actions, I would have loved for these anchors to take responsibility for what George W. Bush did to Iraq, which ended up giving us these terrorist groups.
Yasser Louati, what do you think needs to happen now?
To fight terrorism or to fight this,
Both.
We need to review our foreign policy, which is a disaster. France was perceived, not long, 10 years ago, was perceived as this country promoting human rights and the friend of the oppressed, etc. Now, since Sarkozy became president, it became the enemy of so many people around the world. France supported several dictatorships. We remember the example of Tunisia, for example, as the former dictator Ben Ali was losing his grip on the country. Nicolas Sarkozy was still showing support. We even had the Minister of Interior proposing to help him in order to crack down on all these protesters. So now France is perceived as this colonial country that's still, participating in the destabilization of many countries. Look at Libya. Look what's going on in Tunisia, and again, we keep paying the price for our completely unreliable foreign policy, and now we don't want to address our socio-economic policies here in France. We don't want to address the problem of mass unemployment. We don't want to address the problem of unequal access to education, unequal access to housing, and the government still thinks that by bombing foreign countries, they will reach some result. Terrorism evolved with our societies. They changed their rhetoric, their dogma changed, their communication changed, but our strategies have remained frozen in time. Einstein said something that I keep using, is that madness is when you keep repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But now we have a 40-year failure on this war against terror, and still the government thinks it might work again by bombing people. Definitely we are in a period of elections. We have the local elections in December and the presidential election coming in 2016, and they are just positioning themselves to either get elected or re-elected.
What about the refugee crisis?
They are paying the highest price. They keep saying we need to shut down our borders. The problem is that France had experienced terrorist attacks while borders were closed before we even had the Schengen agreements. So again...
Explain the Schengen agreement.
It's how you make people the right to freely move throughout Europe. And we had attacks before the Schengen agreements. So why use refugees as a scapegoat? And on top of that, and I would take it as an insult, if I were the French president or a minister, refugees don't want to come to France. They keep saying, we don't want to come to your country, we just want to go to the UK or to Germany. And even if France accept 10,000 refugees, which is the lowest number throughout Europe, they keep using them as scapegoats to justify these liberticide measures.
When talking about refugees being denied entrance into the United States, you can go back to World War II, and a Gallup poll was done in 1939 asking Americans if 10,000 Jewish refugee children, this is the time of the Nazis, should be allowed into the United States, and 60% of Americans said no. And then there was the Missouri, the ship called Voyage of the Damned, that took 900 German Jews as they were fleeing the Nazis. Cuba said they couldn't come in, and then the U.S. said they couldn't come in. Hundreds of the people on this ship were returned to Germany and killed. Can you talk about this experience of Jews and how you relate to it as a Muslim?
As a Muslim, I'd like to make the connection with a similar story of Jewish refugees looking for a place to go to throughout Europe, and they were denied access all over Europe, and they kept going from one country to another. But let's remember that during World War II, as France was collaborating with the Nazis, the Grand Mosque of Paris was actually harboring Jews, while France was sending them or shipping them to Nazi Germany to be exterminated. And another Muslim person actually refused to give up on his own citizens, and that was the King Mohammed V of Morocco. And unfortunately, we keep forgetting history. What's happening right now with Syrian refugees and even Iraqi refugees happened to Jews not long ago. And unfortunately, again, we keep repeating the same mistakes because nobody teaches history to our children.
Yasser Louati, spokesperson for the Collective Against Islamophobia in France. Since the November 13th attacks that killed 130 people in Paris, French authorities have carried out more than 2,200 raids. Under the state of emergency, French police can raid any home without judicial oversight. Hundreds have been questioned, a number jailed, others are under house arrest. 3 mosques have also been shut down. The vast majority of those targeted in the raids have been Muslim. That does it for our show. Democracy